All right, everybody. Hey. Welcome to Carbonite Bounty BS, the show where we, the nerds, will be discussing the Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian. Welcome, everybody. And before we even get into the episode, before we even introduce ourselves, I, Hitch, am going to throw it over to my best buddy, Dog Pound Brown, and he's going to tell you where you can find more of us.
Nerdcyclopedia.com, people. Make sure that you're going there to get all our links to our favorite social media outlets at Nerdcyclopedia on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Make sure that you're listening to us on all your favorite podcast outlets as well, like Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, we are there. Make sure you send us some feedback, too. We love the feedback. nerds@nerdcyclopedia.com. And, of course, you're watching us on YouTube. If you're watching us right now, make sure that you are subscribing. Hit that notification buttons, because anytime we're on, you know that we're on.
That's right. And you want to hear from us as much as we want to hear from you. And that's 100%. And that's just how it is. Gentlemen, welcome to our special show on Chapter 10, The Passenger. And I'm Hitch, and we got DP Brown joining us here, all the way from the Dog Pound. We have Ken.
Yeah.
Ken, in his Mandalorian mask, ashamed to be associated with us, which we appreciate. Ken, thank you so much. And Trenton, not ashamed. Trenton has joined us live from Tatooine.
Welcome back, Trenton. We didn't scare you off last week, did we?
That's it.
Never. Back.
All right.
He came back.
Welcome back. Once you do two, now I know you know how to do it easily, so you can't get out of it. It's just how it is.
Right.
Just how it is. Once you try to get out, we pull you back in. Those are the breaks. So I want to start out first because last week I ended with a plea to Disney to please make me an X-Wing series or a Wraith Squadron series, and I just have to say thank you, Disney, for delivering to me an anthology episode out of the X-Wing series you could be making. So thank you for giving me that preview. That was my favorite thing this week. You know what, Trenton?
Lonnie's watching.
Trenton. Why don't we start with you? What was your thing of the week? What was your favorite thing this week?
My favorite thing of the week, honestly, is basically getting some, as some people say, anticlimactic, attention to detail. But as some of the other guys will state, a lot more planet building, a lot more story building. Of course, we all want action, but in series and the way they build it, I mean, this was an episode that was needed. It's adding character development. It's kind of building up things, and I mean, I thought it was an okay episode personally.
I agree. This is the type of episode that can really build some depth. Ken, what was your favorite? What was your favorite bit this week? What was your favorite thing this week?
I had two.
Okay.
All right.
You do too. You're allowed. This is. I'm gonna give you permission.
He has a helmet.
He's
allowed.
Yeah, right. We don't mess with the Mandalorian. Mandalorian's allowed to have as many as he wants. That's how it is.
So the opening scene, Mando against 5 desperados in the middle of the desert. That's great. I mean, the more I get, you just get this great sense of what a great warrior this guy is, and he can take on as many people as you can throw at him by himself. Creatively too,
right?
As he uses their weapons against them. So that was great. The second thing was space spiders.
Right? I know.
Yeah.
Arachnid Space
And
Force.
actually, someone dug into some archive somewhere and found what was that? Doug Chang, some old art that he had done that actually had that spider.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
this was like decades ago. So they're brings out of the depths of Lucasfilm archive into this to really kind of bring the galaxy together. So I dug those two pieces.
Awesome.
Cool.
So that Spirit of '77 we talk about on this show that we really like. All right, DP. So what did you like this week? What was your favorite thing about The Passenger, Chapter 10?
I have to say the ice spiders as well. I mean, I picked up my PlayStation controller and I was about to, start zapping, and it reminded me of, like Resident Evil or a Tomb Raider, killing like, spiders left and right and everything. Mando just running through the tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
It had to feel, at least for that sequence, of like a video game, and I was really into it. It was and the special effects that they have and the money that Disney puts into this, they're not playing around.
Mm-mm.
No cheesiness, no, they could have just, treated this like a regular TV show and, just slacked on it. But it was all, really good looking special effects. So I really appreciated that.
Absolutely. The polish, the money's on the screen, as we say. And, if you watch the production stuff, like I know we do, about the volume and how they're using those innovative technologies to put more effects in camera, which means less time they have to spend editing and more time they can spend focusing on writing a story that makes sense, which we all appreciate here. I want to start us off topic-wise. I want to start us off here talking about the child, the real star of this show, the real protagonist of this show. I want to talk about this brine jar that they're carrying around on this mission first. And I want to talk about that it contains these eggs or something. It's an alien species, so, we can't assume it's an Earth-style egg situation. But the child seems to really enjoy the taste of these eggs and is just reaching in the pickle jar.
He was gobbling them up.
Mm-hmm.
Salt.
So let me ask you guys a question. You guys can whoever wants to chime in first can kind of chime in. But who was thinking to themselves, like, what are you doing with the child? Like, was anybody thinking, like, have a reaction, like stop it? Like, were you guys getting mad at the child? Was anybody having an emotional reaction like that?
So I'm rewatching a little bit of the first season episodes again, and I'm sitting up here like, man, Mando really has not. He doesn't have baby skills.
Yeah.
If you ever had a child and everything, you would not let him do a lot of the things that Mando lets him do. Right. Just leaving him off everywhere. Anytime he goes, he just leaves him. Babysitting with someone else he does not know. And here the child is, putting stuff in his mouth and eating things, and you don't know what the heck is going on, and you're like, wow. If you had a child, we got kids on here and everything. Mm-hmm. So we know how that experience is, of a child putting things in their mouths that they're not supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. What about anybody else? Did you guys get the idea here that these eggs are like precious? Were they sort of like, we're gonna have a bunch of them anyway by the time we need them? Like, what was your read on this? Because to me, this felt like a real thing the child was doing that seemed bad, right? Like it seemed like if I'm to think this is a force sensitive being, right? Why is it snuffing out life? Like what's going on there?
He likes frogs.
He just likes frogs.
He likes everything.
Yeah, he's an omnivore.
He ate frogs in the first season, like gobbled them in whole. In fact, if you buy one of the toys, it comes with a frog
that he could eat.
That these things would be very enticing for him. I mean, have you ever had like fish eggs?
Yeah.
They're super salty and they're good. So I don't blame him at all for eating these things. Okay. It's part of what he is. And what's funny is someone on the Mandalorian page said that they saw them going toward, like they moved toward him. So they thought maybe he was actually incubating them, not eating them, but protecting them in some way.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I
Wow. I gotta look at that
I
again.
But
don't know if I could
his
give you that he
hands
was protecting him. I'm gonna have to. I don't know. This is a pretty clear. It's a pretty clear eating motion going on here, man.
pretty clear. Yeah, pretty clear. He liked him. But Mando, like Sam said, no father skills.
Just lets him do whatever he wants.
I would have those things locked up, and I would have him in a playpen somehow or away from these things, because that's what you do with a child.
Backwards.
That's what you do with the child.
He did it backwards. What about you, Trent? What do you think about this the pickle jar with the pickled eggs in it? What do you think about that?
Definitely thought that was based on her reaction when he picked her up, a lot more serious.
Mm-hmm.
At least she's saying that it is. But one of the things I thought, I know Ken touched on it on some of the things they were saying on the page. I thought that when he had touched that under the ship, that he was actually pulling those eggs with him with the Force.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of think, as far as some of the things are inkling, is the kid is kind of teaching itself how to harness the Force, how to use it. Obviously, it had strong sense at the first, season, picking up the creature and things like that. But it seems like, we're getting inklings of its furthering its knowledge of the Force and being, a lot more Force sensitive to things, sensing danger, things of that. So I'm starting to see that maybe they're sputtering in pieces of the child actually learning to harness the Force better than it did, when we first interacted with it.
And that's so interesting because children. And I'm as one of, I don't have any, so I'll say it like this: children, their brains, and I'll say it like that. When their brains are like dough, you roll it around on the floor, and all the stuff on the floor gets stuck to it. And so, for the child, the concern is, if this is a Force sensitive being and you are murdering things, and I don't want to say that the Mando's hurting things like unnecessarily, even. I don't want to put a bad moral end to it. But if this being gets used to the feeling of death as an expediency, that can be a very dangerous thing. As we've seen in, I don't know, human history. I'll just throw a name out there for you guys. Caligula. Not a not a great thing that worked out for everybody. So you got to watch out with letting the kids get too much of that, R-rated stuff. And we know the child's seeing all that stuff. We know the child's seeing the prelude to some violence to the point where it can recognize it. We see that in the last episode when he hits when the child hits their button. So there's all my concern is this like a manifestation of the child learning dark side things? Is this bad things, expedient things, or is this just the child is an omnivore alien and it will eat whatever it can eat, like Nibbler from Futurama? Could be one, could be the other. Who knows? We'll find out.
Well, children are evil. Children go through all phases, right, Sam?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, they have all types of size. They try you. We seen the child try Mando a few times last season and everything. But for the most part, he's well connected. I mean, they're bonded at this point. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you got that right there.
Absolutely. Now let's have this. I want to talk for a second about the cops, like this pulling over the Mandalorian scene that we get in space, and I want to talk about this being my favorite part of the episode. So I do want to talk about it. So last week I said I wanted this X-Wing series, and this is the sort of thing.
X-Wing.
This is the sort of thing that like Rogue Squadron would do if you put it in charge of like a system. It would check and make sure you weren't being like, I don't know, criminals like Han Solo. No Han Solo is allowed in this sector. We can't have that. What did you guys think about the whole exchange here with the X-Wing wing pairing? What did you guys think about that?
What him pulling over, trying to pull over Mando?
Mm-hmm. I thought that was hilarious. That just made me like that whole thing was just such a fun parallel of those sorts of scenes you always see, right?
It had a lot of humor. Actually, this episode, I mean, before they got to like the spider scene and everything,
before the horror,
it had a lot of humor and a lot of light, levity, right at the beginning and everything, which was sort of jarring to me. I mean, it wasn't bad or anything like that to me, but it was a little jarring considering that, okay, we've had like the cuteness with the child and everything. That's where it ends. And then we have like Mando's reactions to the child, which is sometimes hilarious and everything. Okay, those are little bits and stuff. But this episode here had a lot of that, you know, in the beginning. And I was just like, okay, you guys could be, you know, have that levity and everything. Let's not have this throughout the whole episode, though. Mm-hmm. So that and the banter between the X-wing pilots and Mando and everything was, you know, that same levity, just like extended and everything. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it had you guys watch Chips, right? So Eric Estrada, right? Yeah. Pulling, you know, they're trying to pull over somebody on the LA freeway. You know, same thing. It even had, and if you like took that vibe, that humor, and crossed it with Battlestar Galactica, I mean, it was legit, like right out of the '80s with the special effects, which don't gloss over everything memorized by special effects. You can really just watch the damn thing. And I thought it was very well done and humorous, but you also had a seriousness. Like, these guys weren't messing around. They were going to blast him out of the sky if he didn't activate his and tell him, and you know, prove that he wasn't Imperial.
Right. Identify himself. Yeah.
And well, we got a runner, because that's like, if you watch any of the talk shows, that's what they do. They go, I got a runner, and it's like actually out of real life. I mean, so it was legit. It was good.
Yeah, great point. Something straight out of a '70s, you know, cop show. You know, that's straight out of '70s cop shows what they did. So that's a great point.
It's almost like a Dukes of Hazzard chase scene, because they go slide into the cave, which is exactly like the Dukes would do, right? Oh, that Mandalorian sure is in trouble. Look at it. What'll happen next?
You're not going to do that, are you? On crash line. You know, yeah, it was good.
So let's start. Okay, so now we're at this. So Mando's stranded, and the passenger, the salamander frog, whatever, goes and finds the hot spring. Okay, and I have a question here, and this is something my wife and I talked about. So the child eats an ice spider. Right? Eats an ice spider out of this glistening pod, which we learned on Rick and Morty this season, right? You shouldn't stare at glistening pods. It's a bad idea. And then all the ice spiders hatch, right? And all the other ice spiders show up. My question for the floor is, did the child cause all of the hatching, or was it all coincidental? How are we meant to understand that?
I think he caused it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, DP?
I mean, is it significant to understand?
I think in some ways, yes, because are we to understand that this is another mistake the child is making? Are we to understand that it's eating babies? Like, should there be a consequence to that or not? And you know, like we saw, if we're incubating eggs, we could incubate these eggs, right? To incubate it to make it what we want to eat. I wasn't sure. Now, my wife is on your guys' side. She believes that the child did, in fact, cause all of that because they ate the egg. I'm not 100%. I don't know how much of it's just the general energy in the it's just, I don't know how much of it's just their presence and how much of it is the actual, I'm going to eat this spider, right? Total gross out scene, by the way, right? We don't want to see, I mean, that's such a great, eating that spider, man, just like, God, it grossed me out. What did everybody think about, what's everybody's favorite thing about the ice spiders? Let's start with you, Trenton. What is your favorite thing about the ice spiders? What did you like the most about this sequence?
I mean, to me personally, it's a pretty cool callback that, you know, once again, we're tying into the games. If you've played the newest game, I believe with Cal Kestis in there, those ice spiders are a part of the game, obviously in a different planet, but, you know, it's just in the detail as far as what they're doing, different species and different planets, things like that. It's really a testament to Filoni and, like you said before, everybody on board. One of the wild things that I pulled up on this episode as well, as we're talking about the spiders, once he had ate that first spider, the child keeps raising his hands, and he sensed danger. Is that, as we're saying, he doesn't understand the Force? Did he activate all those eggs that happened one time? Because I went back and watched a scene of it a second ago, and it's awkward as far as how his reaction is with his hands up. I don't know if the Force caused him all to hatch or what, but as we're saying, he's learning things, understanding. Maybe it's a sense side of the dark side. Maybe he did do something he's not understanding. What is what and how to do what.
Now you bring up a really good, point there, because in my mind, if this is what is actually happening, it brings a lot more nuance to, the child being with, and not just not just Mando's mission to bring the child to like the Jedi and everything. It actually brings like some, I guess, more character development with the child, and we're learning a lot more of his complications being with Mando. Instead of just him looking cute and just, okay, well, what's the purpose? Okay, how long are we going to have to deal with this child with our Mandalorian, hero and everything? Is it going to, last for, a couple more seasons and stuff? Is this a whole thing? This actually is bringing a lot more nuance to, the child, and that's really interesting.
The really interesting thing is, if the child needs to have exposure to certain background because of its Force sensitivity, Mando is going to have to live his life a certain way. He's going to have to stop with all the bounty hunting and all the killing things and shooting things up and all this recklessness, or it's going to have to leave the child. And you can see that we are setting up this conflict down the line.
How would Mando know how to do that, though?
I'm sorry?
How would Mando know to do that?
Well, that's the thing. That's what are we going to find out here about this scenario, right? But if you think about it, if this child falls down the dark path, I mean, we know that the dark side, this selfishness, leads to essentially bringing the entire galaxy under one control. The child is going to live for a millennium.
Right?
I mean, the one thing, and I'll say this, like think about someone like Hitler, because it's an easy one to pick, right? We are very far away from Hitler in the distance of time, right? There's not a lot of danger that next week Hitler's going to pop up in the news and be like, I'm back, right? Because we are very safe from them.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Right? Hopefully not Hitler. I mean, Hitler personally, all right? Not the ideas, because that's a different situation, right? And thank God until this week. So we're moving forward. Hitler can't reach us. But if Hitler had the lifespan of the child, then we would not be very safe from that happening, because they could just pop up. This isn't 1946. So that's the stakes are actually probably higher when you think about what's happening now with the child than even if it were happening, to any other, I want to say normal lifespan, but that feels so xenophobic, right? But so human-like.
So I guess that brings it to another point of how these first episodes of sorely unravel. We only know we're getting 8 episodes in a season and everything. And these first episodes, while they've been adventurous and stuff, they really haven't gone a whole lot, a lot of places. So I guess that's why, Trent, you was talking about people were poo-pooing this episode online and everything about the action not moving. We just had the Boba Fett reveal from last episode. So I held my hand and said, who was that, last episode? So we got the reveal from last episode, but it was none of that this episode. Should things be happening a lot quicker, a lot faster? I mean, what are we thinking here?
I think it's just, the fact it's the nervousness. We only have 8 episodes a season. I mean, from last episode, I think the episode runtime was about 13 minutes less. So it's just one of those things. I think we are expecting more. I mean, this has been a knockout of the park for Disney Plus or Disney and whole Star Wars. That we're yearning for more, and maybe they didn't do the whole Netflix Stranger Things or whatever they do.
Just drop it all at one time.
No, I mean, we're here reacting, it's a good thing they space it out. But I just think personally, everybody's so clickbaity, and it's tough. If we did what we wanted it to do, which is action every episode, they'd run out of content, and by the last 4 episodes, they'd just be doing filler. So it's just one of the things that we just have to. I guess we have to be patient.
You end up with those like.
I think
I'm there regardless. So if the purpose is just to keep me, tuned in, I mean, they got me. So I mean, you could complain about it whatsoever. I mean, as much as you want, but it's not like you're gonna stop watching it.
Right. Right.
What do you?
we have to trust. We have to trust that they know how to space this out and make it a good product, and it's going to be a good story. They know what they're doing. I mean, they've been doing this since the '60s. Disney has been painting and taking money and making money, so they know what they're doing. They are the right leader for this franchise now. They're gonna guide it into the future with a lot of positive energy.
Yeah. And everything can't be 100% either. So, everything can be perfect. And like I said, if this is if this is called a lesser episode, it was like the standards were still really good, high.
Like if this is a bottle episode, right? Where it's like, one CGI thing and the child and Mando, and then essentially, a lot of background stuff. It has a smaller scope, and it can enable, by using suspense in the place of action, it puts a lull in the overall story without putting a lull in the overall interest level that you bring to the story. So when you structure,
right,
you want to have interesting event, and then you want to have other interesting event that doesn't like sort of advance this other plot. So you can have more than one thing happening at once. It's excellent story construction because the universe they inhabit is so enormous. And I love episodes like this where it feels like Sonar, right? Where it's like, boom, and we find out things about the universe, like that the New Republic is assuming the Imperial, customs stuff, and that now they're starting to be an enforcement. And these guys are probably, veterans of Endor and veterans of Yavin, and they're probably having to deal with what it's like to, assume the powers of government when you're in a rebellion, when you're in a revolution. And that's the sort of stuff it's just sitting all the way on the periphery of this episode, right? It's all the way right on the edge. It's not anywhere near the actual plot. It's just, look, this is a three-dimensional
on the edges. Yeah, on the edges, you're seeing a lot of or you're hearing a lot of stuff like Hitch was saying, like on the edges and everything. It would be just so great to get like a little small tidbits of a series to sort of overlap this or run parallel to this. We have Mando's adventures going on over here, but we know this whole other side since the Empire fell of what's going on and how that's being what the aftermath effects of that is.
Oh man. And they're doing it right. And like you said, Ken, you said it. This is the perfect custodian for this franchise because they have so much money and they're willing to just spend the money to let the nerds that need to be running this stuff run it, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you got to love about Disney. At a certain point, they've got so much invested in this that they know that, look, Jon Favreau can do it. And we don't have to mess with it. And
the funny part about The Mandalorian right now? Ever since The Mandalorians came back, we have not heard one Kathleen Kennedy story. I think that's a win for her. It's a big win for her. We have not heard that name. Because remember, as of episode 9, she was getting fired and board meetings. And since this came back, she's sitting in her chair and letting these guys take the reins. So.
No responsibility is for right now. Let the car ride until we can come up with something to do with the bigger franchise and everything.
Right. I hope what they've learned is that they don't need to do anything with the bigger franchise, and they put it to bed. And now we can tell these other stories about this universe that are so much more interesting because we don't have to fit them into that tropey template of how is this a different version of Anakin's fall, right? How is this not that story? It's a different story, but it's the same story, right? Same story for Ben and Anakin and Luke and all the rest. I'm super excited to see the rest of the season because I think that anytime you have a spectacle of the first episode, I mean, my goodness gracious, we exploded a crate dragon last week. Let's not forget that. It's okay to have a little bit of a change of pace to get us invested in these characters. And I'll say this, say what you want about the episode itself. I felt invested in the story of the passenger. I felt like I believed that this was important. And I'm a person in Star Wars who has a natural aversion to the lizardy sort of characters, the salamandery sort of characters, thanks to Jar Jar Binks. I have a prejudice against these characters because I just think it's going to sound dumb, and they did it right. In fact, I would go as far as saying if they made Jar Jar Binks sound like the passenger, that would fix a lot of stuff that's wrong with episode 1, and maybe someone will fix it. I don't know. It's a dream of mine. All right, so last thoughts before we go, because we're at about a half hour. Trent, why don't you lead us off? Last thoughts this week, and things you're looking forward to. Anything else you got?
Yeah, really, last thoughts this week was, like I said, in some eyes a little anticlimactic, but in my eyes, a great episode. Some great things. Obviously, we're getting creature fighting. Like I said, more like DP said, it's more of a video game feel. But moving forward, just excitement. Big thing I always wanted to learn from this story is, they're talking about the Jedi and sorcerers with swords. Are we really going to see some lightsaber action in this? Because as much as I love lightsabers and battles and Jedi, I was really looking for this to be the Space Cowboy series that kind of took us away from that. So hopefully that doesn't dominate too much of the scene. I mean, we saw Moff for a second with the Darksaber. So I just like the Mando, and hopefully they stay away from the Jedi theme that it keeps kind of trickling in the episodes in the background.
Awesome. Kenny, what about you? Final thoughts this week?
I'm looking forward to him, Mando, delivering the passenger, completing that sort of reverse bounty quest, right? Mm-hmm. So he's not taking anyone to prison, or he's actually delivering to another, meeting her up with her family and her husband. So that water planet, like we're suspecting, is going to be where he's going to meet this other Mandalorian. Who's that? And how's that person going to help him find where the child belongs? So that's really going to be the first. I think the next episode, Friday night, whenever it drops, that's going to be a big one. It's going to have a lot of meat to it, because it's going to really point us in the direction that the whole story's going. So I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Nice. All right, Mr. Brown.
Hey, I'm looking forward to Cara Dune coming back. She's always a sight for sore eyes. So just looking forward to some more plot development and everything. Some more tidbits coming in, and Moff Gideon. So Trim was talking about like lightsabers. So I'm curious. I know the black saber has already a lot of lore in the animated series and stuff, but this has really been the first time you've seen it, introduced live. So I'm kind of wondering how they're going to delve into that, or just leave everything to the animated stuff. If you want to know more about the black saber, well, watch the animated stuff. But if it's almost like that smoking gun, if you're going to introduce it, you gotta let the gun fire at some point, So they can't just throw it out there, and leave that as like the last thing you see from the previous season and not come back to it.
Chekhov's lightsaber. Right. Chekhov's lightsaber. We can't have any more of that. Yeah, right. We actually need to see more from Darksaber and everything like that. I want to see this. I do want to see the water planet. I really hope this is a 1-2 sort of first part, second part sort of thing. I'm invested. I want to see the end of this story for the passenger. Like I said, you got me, Disney. I'm a hard-hearted man, but you managed to make me care by scaring the bejesus out of me. I will say this. In addition to begging Disney on my hands and knees to make an X-Wing series, I feel like, I'm not a super huge fan of spiders. So I feel like the idea that they had, a mix of alien and arachnophobia happen this week really it really had me sort of standing up, and I just appreciated the different type of suspense and the way that they showed how many clubs they have in their bag and how many types of stories they can tell. Because this is a different type of story than they were telling last year, and it's a deeper type of story. I like where they're going, and I think that they have the right sort of team in place to obviously continue to be creative. Certainly people that are better than me in place running this one, which is great. So you can always love that. Anybody else? Anything else you want to say before we sign off for the week on Chapter 10?
Keep doing it, Dave Filoni. I mean, we believe in you.
Mm-hmm. We absolutely do. All right, everybody. Well, that is going to do it for us here at Carbonite Bounty BS for Chapter 10, The Passenger. And we are the nerds. And as we always say before we leave, this is the way.
This is the way.
See you guys later. All right. See you next week. Be back. Bye.